Well, here we are Thursday again for another GMP great interview with two of my favorite guys, and Mark Brannon and Bobby Lewis, who have been connected with us for a number of years. I'm going to let them share a little bit about that with you and how they connected with GMP, et cetera, et cetera. And I love these guys. I love them in the Lord. I love their musicianship, their talent, and their ability. And God has blessed us so much by allowing them to be a part of what we do. And I'm gonna bring them in, not waste any more time right now. And I'm gonna bring Bobby in here. And there he is. And I'm gonna bring Mark in there. There's Mark. Hey guys.
Hello.
Camp.
It is good to see you guys again. And man, I've missed you. There's this fog of a virus that's kind of covered us here for several months, and the way we've had to make a big shift, and we don't call cancel, but we've been postponing projects and trying to revamp and get back in gear, and how we're going to move things around, and of course right now we're just praying for God's willingness to allow us to start back up again in October. If all things are well, we'll be following him on that for sure. But today I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about your introduction to GMP and what connected you to GMP. And when that was and all that kind of thing. Mark, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I was one of my good friends, Rich Gaddis, another trumpet player. He called me one day, kind of out of the blue, and said, "Hey, could you go to Portugal in 2 months?" And unfortunately, I couldn't go that quickly, but he was telling me what it was. He said, "I'm going with Camp Kirkland. I'm going with the Metro Big Band. And we're going to play music in Portugal." And he told me all about it. I thought, wow, that is awesome. But my schedule wouldn't let me go then. And then that kind of planted a seed, though. That was in I think that was in March, I believe. And then the following summer, my wife, Belinda and I were on vacation, and we were talking about our vacation. And we thought, we are excited and fortunate to get to go on some cool vacations, but it's not enough. We were thinking, we need to go, let's go try to figure out a way to get involved in something, maybe that we could both participate musically in. And I really wasn't thinking about what Rich had told me about at that point. And then that was the end of that conversation. Well, then later, I believe it was September or October of the same year, our church was involved in the Shelby Baptist Convention in West Tennessee. And I went out to Faith Baptist Church, and lo and behold, the conductor for the orchestra that day was Maestro Camp Kirkland. And so that was a lot of fun. We were with I don't know, there's 10 or 15 churches represented that day, and with a huge orchestra, and we were all just reading music, and we were going to give a very short concert. And at the break time of rehearsal, Camp started laying it on thick to everybody, saying, "Hey, you guys, let me tell you about Global Missions Project."
Did I do that?
Yeah,
Did I do that?
It's very unlike Camp Kirkland to really lay it on. But I caught up. Belinda and I went during the break and caught up with Camp and said, "Look, we want to do this. How do we get more information? We want to go. Wherever it is, we want to go." And so the very following year, I think it was actually Portugal. The next year was our very first trip, and so that's how we got introduced to GMP. And so
wow. And of course, we just did an interview just a couple of weeks ago with Andy and Michelle Milam, and they have loved that they're our mission partners in Portugal that we've been serving with, and they have just loved how Global Missions Project has supported them and been a part of their ministry. They're so gracious anyway, but they really do love GMP, and I'm thankful for that. So you actually was that. So you said, what year was that? Do you remember?
2011, I believe.
Well, 2011 was our first year in Portugal then, right? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because the year before it was Ukraine, I think, that I couldn't go.
Yeah. 2009 was Ukraine. Yeah. So I know you're getting older in your memory, and so it's okay. Hey, Bobby, tell me a little bit about your connection.
Well, I'm actually just going to pick up the story where Mark just left off, because Mark and his wife, Belinda, have been great friends to me and my wife, Donna, through a lot of ups and downs in our life. But at the time that he went to Portugal, he and I were attending the same church together. And when Mark came back from Portugal, he said, "Look at this." And I had to sit out in the hall at church for about an hour and a half and watch all the videos that he took of the Portugal trip. And most of them were of him playing trumpet, right?
Yeah.
In the thing. But he was so excited, and the excitement was contagious. But that conversation just kind of ended there. And one day I was at work. I don't remember what year it was, probably 6 years ago. I was at work, the phone rang, I picked up the phone, and I heard this voice say, "Bobby." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "This is Camp Kirkland. Mark Brannon told me that I needed to contact you to see if you might have an interest in going to Brazil with us." And I said, "Well, that could be good." He said, "We've got to buy tickets today, and we're leaving in 27 days. And I said, "Okay, I got some things I got to do. I got to check, make sure my schedule's clear at work. I've got to check with my wife." And I said, give me a couple of days just to put all this together." And he said, "Well, I need to hear back from you within about an hour." And I said, "Okay." So I called home to Donna, my wife, and I said, "You'll never believe what just happened." She said, "What?" I said, "God called me on the telephone, and he wants me to go to Brazil." And so Donna knows enough about me to know that there had to be some element of truth or some seed beneath that. But quite frankly, I checked my calendar amazingly enough, not amazingly enough, providentially. There was no commitments that I could not get out of in the week that he wanted me to go. I called back to Donna and I said, "Hey, I'm really thinking this may be an opportunity for us to do this." And she said, "Whatever you're doing, I'm with you." So we booked 2 tickets within 30 minutes of the call from camp, and God met me in Brazil.
Tell me what that means.
I'd been going through some relationship struggles with the Lord in that time, and I just was not sure that I didn't have confidence that God could use me, that he wanted to use me. I just had no idea. And when we went down to Brazil, there was a lot of excitement with the quality of the group, the band, the first rehearsal. I actually went out and bought a bass I had not played in about 12 or 13 years, and I was still kind of struggling with that, but everybody was so gracious and so nice. But the first evening while we were there, Ken Hughes was on that trip, asked me if I would share my testimony with the congregation, and I got to do that, and it just refreshed my memory of what God had done for me, how he had saved me and how he had called me and how he could still use me. And God just connected with me in a very real and a very emotional way on that trip throughout the entire week. And it revolutionized and radicalized my life, and quite frankly, deepened significantly the emotional connection and the intimate relationship that I had with God. And mostly during that trip, through the encouragement of the other band members that were there, through seeing God work in the lives of individuals in the congregations, I came back saying, "You know what? Maybe God can still use me." Mm-hmm. And that was 5 years ago. I'm one of the co-lay worship leaders at our church now. I mean, God has just done an amazing work in my life. And it all started with the trip. Actually, I guess it all started with being an hour and a half watching Mark Brannon photos in the hall.
And by the way, Michelle Milam just wrote in and she said because they were great pictures. And that's great. And by the way, a number of people are making a few comments here and everything, and especially for Mark, for you, Jeff Balch and Rod Knopsker and Dave Kirby, some of your trumpet player cohorts are all kind of signed in here, and several other of our great people, Sherry McLean and Gerardo Villagrán from down in Guatemala, Bobby, young man that is participates in the ministry with Manuel and Pedro,
right?
And just fine. Dennis Kirby just signed on and said hi, and Pablo down in Guatemala, one of our translators. Well, I have to tell you, one of the reasons that I wanted to invite you guys to be a part of this today is because of what you just shared. You shared with me right after your first project, each of you, and about how God had impacted your life through those times. And it was also rejuvenating for me to hear your testimony. And I'm so thankful for it. Now, everybody that's out there listening or watching today and seeing this video, I want you to know that I would have never known how long it had been since Bobby was on a bass, because he is a fine bassist and just an incredible musician. And Mark is still working on his fingerings, but he's going to be okay soon. And I'm just kidding. Actually, Mark has served as our lead trumpet player in Metro Big Band on several of our projects, and is a dynamite player. And his wife Belinda has traveled with us on keyboard. And Donna, is Donna back there behind you anywhere, Bob?
Yeah, she's right back over there.
Hey, yell, Donna.
Hey, how are you?
That's Donna. Donna is Miss Support and Miss Helper and Miss Money Collector and whatever else needs to be done on our projects. Donna, come on over.
I'm being video bombed.
Say again.
I'm being video bombed.
That's okay. That's good. Donna, it's good to see you, lady. And I think virtually every time that Bobby has traveled with us, Donna has been with him every time that's possible. And the same thing is true with Mark, with Belinda traveling with us as well. And it's so neat to have the teamwork of the couples there that not only are great musicians and helpers in every way like that, but I think they're role models for so many of our participants. And I'm so thankful for that. And GMP has been blessed to have so many wonderful participants that are very similar to Bobby and Mark in their heart for the Lord and their desire to serve Him through their gift of music. And also, once again, Bobby mentioned sharing his testimony. I love it when he shares his testimony. I just love to stand back each time he shares it, and I just see people listen, and they're hearing Bobby, but they're hearing from the Lord at the same time. And that's true with Mark as well. Well, guys, tell me, have you had a favorite project? Anyone in particular that maybe just you really got excited about? I know you're excited about all of them. I know you always have a good time, but anyone in particular, maybe?
Every project is so different. And legitimately, each band is slightly different. Each band, for those that don't know, they're listening, the bands come together, and some of the same players have been on the trips together before, but typically it's a brand new band. And every band has its own personality and its own skill level. And, we love lots of things about every trip we've been on. And my favorite part of the trips is getting to know the musicians that are in the band. It's all about the people. There's two sets of people. The people in the band are so cool. They become family. They become lifelong friends. And there's not a trip we've been on yet that we don't keep in touch with people that we were on the trip with, like extended family. And the other is, the people that we get to play for and that we get to encourage. It's amazing to connect with those people through music. And so oftentimes, it's almost every time we go, it's to a foreign land where I don't necessarily speak the language. And you connect through that universal language of music. And it's we have people from the country that they'll sit in the band with us and play with us. We may not understand, I don't understand Portuguese completely. I can just a little bit maybe, but you got a fellow believer that sits in with you, or a friend that's another trumpet friend that you play music together. And it's really hard to describe. But it's a fantastic bond that's created with your bandmates and with some of the people that you get to meet on the trips. And then when you go back, because GMP always tries to go back and we go back to the countries over and over again. And so you have bonds, and you see those same people when you go back, and you get to see them again. And it's just that's what this is all about. And I'm going to add on to that and say, when we heard about this, the whole concept. Our church that we were attending is very involved in mission work. and they were always going to build a playground or to paint a building or teach in the schools or to do medicine or something. And that's all fantastic, but I have no skill in any of those areas. And so it's like, do I go or do we just support someone else? And when you go on the global mission projects, there you can take your music skill and then you connect with the people at such an incredible level. It's very difficult to explain, but it's two set. It's also you're connecting with the band people and you're encouraging them in their spiritual walk. Not to mention the people that you're on mission to, that you're playing with and getting to know. So I don't have a favorite. I mean, they're all my favorite. That's such a lame.
That's great.
I'm sorry.
That's great. You know what? I feel the same way. Bobby, anything?
Yeah, I'm going to share that same sentiment. And I think if you talk to anybody who had ever been on more than one trip, they're going to tell you the same thing. To me, it's interesting. If you're sitting, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but if you're sitting on the platform in your church playing your instrument every week, you are serving the Lord. That is good. That is worthy. But you have a very Americanized view of God's work in people's lives. When you go to Scotland, when you go to Guatemala, when you go to Cuba, and you see how God is still working in meaningful ways in those people's lives and in other people's lives, but in such different ways in their lives. And yet there's a commonality of the Holy Spirit. There's a commonality of the love of Jesus. There's a commonality about wanting to bring glory to God through whatever ways you can. That's just a fabulous exposure. And quite frankly, for me, it ignited my heart, not only for GMP, but for missions in general. My financial support for missions, my awareness of other cultures and other people that are in my area and my community was greatly heightened, and my desire to want to serve them for the glory of Christ just became through the roof. And so it's really bigger than just the 7 days that you're on a trip. It is perspective changing and life changing.
I think you guys have voiced exactly my heartbeat as well, and not that our opinion is the only opinion, but ultimately I think it really is from this standpoint. Mark, you said it. It's all about the people.
Yep.
And Bobby, you said it. It's all about the growth that not only do we get to share, but the growth in our own lives personally, as we see how God allows us to be a part of sharing His plan. And by the way, God has a plan, and He always has. And I've said that a few times. And but you know what? It's absolutely true, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And by the way, a number of other people have signed on, and one of our favorites, Carolyn Brannon, has just signed on and saying hello, and that's Mark's mama, and it's good to see her here. And by the way. And JW signed on, and he said, "Hey guys," and then he said, "And camp," and I'm not going to wave at those people anymore. Wayne Davis, by the way, did say this. He said, "Mark playing Dixieland outside a subway station in the Chinese section of Vienna, amazing indeed." And we are talking about Vienna, Austria, when we did that, and that was a really interesting, unique, very different project for us because of the logistics and circumstances. But you know what? God used us just like He does every single time. Yeah. We go with the plan. God may change the plan, but ultimately, as long as we're following Him, we're walking in His footsteps on our mission projects. And we're seeing lives changed on both sides, those that we share with and for ourselves as well. So I'm so thankful that we get to be a part of all of this. Now, Bobby and Mark, I'm going to be looking for you to sign up for a project this week, if you will, please, and join us again. Hey, it's been great to be here with everybody again today. And I'm just so thankful I really am thankful for Mark and Bobby and for their beautiful and wonderful spouses who have joined in with us in every way on our projects to be helpers and musicians. And I every time I talk to somebody on these Thursdays, I can't wait for God to open the door for us to let us loose again and get back out there and doing what He called us to do. Well, God bless all of you today. Mark, Bobby, God bless both of you guys. And I'm so thankful that you were able to take time from your busy schedules, because I know a little bit about that, and be with us today. We love you out there. There are those of you that are listening, and pray that you will consider Global Missions Project and becoming a part of one of our projects again soon. See y'all.
Thanks, Cam.